As I stood at the starting line, weak and trembling, Karen's smug eyes bore into mine. Karen, teacher, demands I run the marathon, but I'm on chemo. This became a test of not only my physical limits, but also the unraveling of a battle against an unyielding teacher. Here's how it all went down. My life at Oakwood High, not its real name, was supposed to be about making memories, not battling cancer and dealing with Karen, the most notoriously stubborn teacher in our school. Karen, the physical education teacher, was infamous for her rigid and often unreasonable demands. When she announced the annual 100 kilometers marathon as a mandatory class project, my heart sank. I was in the midst of my chemotherapy treatment for lung cancer, barely managing to attend school, let alone participate in a marathon. One morning, Karen decided to address my situation in front of the entire class. "You're participating in the marathon, right?" she asked, her voice leaving no room for argument. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of my classmates' stares. "Miss Karen, I'm currently undergoing chemotherapy for lung cancer. It's impossible for me." She interrupted me with a dismissive gesture. "No excuses. You either run or you fail my class. It's that simple." I tried to explain the severity of my condition and the doctor's strict advice against strenuous activities, but Karen was unyielding. "Life is about overcoming challenges, not succumbing to them," she retorted, her tone harsh and unfeeling. Her lack of empathy was astounding. I left the class that day feeling a mix of anger, helplessness, and disbelief. I chose not to inform my parents about my situation because I didn't want to add to their worries. The financial strain caused by my chemotherapy treatments is already significant enough for them to handle. It is important to me that they focus on their own well-being and not be burdened with additional concerns related to my health. The marathon day was a test of my limits. I stood at the starting line, my body weak and trembling. Karen's eyes were fixed on me, a smug look on her face. "Remember, no running, no passing," she said coldly. I began at a painfully slow pace, each step a battle against my own body. My classmates ran past me, some offering words of encouragement, others just glances of pity. Despite the pain and dizziness, I pushed on, determined not to let Karen's cruelty win. But halfway through, my body couldn't take it anymore. I collapsed, struggling to breathe, the world around me fading into darkness. I woke up in the hospital, surrounded by my worried parents and a stern-faced doctor explaining the consequences of my overexertion. The incident sparked outrage. Parents, students, and even some teachers demanded action against Karen's insensitivity. The school board suspended her and launched an investigation into her conduct. During my recovery, I was visited by classmates who apologized for not standing up against Karen's unreasonable demands. The marathon was eventually canceled, and the school issued a statement about the importance of empathy and understanding for all students. Months later, I returned to school. My health somewhat improved. To my dismay, Karen was back, her suspension lifted following the investigation. She approached me one day with the same unapologetic demeanor. "So, you're better now, ready to run that marathon?" she taunted. I couldn't believe her audacity. "You almost cost me my life with your stubbornness," I said, my voice filled with anger and disbelief. Karen just shrugged. "Life's about facing challenges, not avoiding them. You'll thank me someday." Her words and attitude were repulsive. It was clear that Karen would never understand or acknowledge the pain and danger she had caused. I turned away from her, realizing that some people are simply incapable of empathy or change. Karen was one of them, her heart as cold as her demands. I walked away, more determined than ever to live my life fully, in defiance of her cruelty and in spite of her. Wow, what a powerful and emotional story. It's infuriating to see how some people lack empathy and understanding. Kudos to the student for their determination and resilience. Karen's behavior was absolutely unacceptable, sending love and strength to anyone going through a similar situation. Stay strong. I never thought breaking up with my boyfriend over the orange peel theory would lead to such unexpected consequences. Little did I know, it would unravel a web of laziness, neglect, and manipulation that I couldn't ignore. Here's how it all went down. What is the orange peel theory? While scrolling on TikTok, I came across a post about the orange peel theory, which, in summary, suggests that you can gauge someone's willingness to help by asking them to do a small task for you, such as peeling an orange or tying your shoes. These are tasks that you are perfectly capable of doing yourself. The true test lies in how they respond. If they react with responses like, "You can do it yourself," "Can't you do that?" or "I guess," it may indicate that they are unwilling to help with small tasks and may struggle with larger tasks in the future. On the other hand, if they willingly assist or take the initiative to help immediately, they pass the test in a way. Now let me share my own experience. I decided to try out the orange peel theory with my boyfriend of 7 months. Up to that point, we had been happy, but in hindsight, I am not surprised by his response. I asked him to tie my hair up for me and he looked at me and questioned why I couldn't do it myself. Initially, I thought he might be hesitant due to my long hair. However, he has had long hair in the past and knew how to tie it up. I asked him again, thinking it could have been a one-time thing, but he insisted that I should do it since I was in the kitchen and he needed to relax, mentioning that he had just finished work. I understand what you may be thinking. Let the man relax. He just finished work. But here's the thing. He works from home, and even if he was genuinely tired, he still has plenty of energy to play games and go out to the bar with his friends. Regardless, I initially didn't want to end our relationship and thought it would be foolish to do so over a TikTok video. That is, until later in the day when I asked him to put a towel in the dryer so that I could have a warm towel after my shower since I had forgotten to do it myself. To no surprise, he never did it, and it made me realize how much I do for him and his daughter, who isn't even mine. I think I have fed, held, and changed her more often than he has. So Reddit, I ask you, would I be wrong if I go through with ending the relationship? I acknowledge that seeking advice from TikTok was not the wisest decision and demonstrated immaturity on my part. However, I disagree with the notion that what happened wasn't a big deal. The orange peel theory worked and opened my eyes to the fact that I put in much more effort for him than he does for me. Our relationship won't end solely because my towel wasn't warm or my hair wasn't tied up, but because I realize that I am settling for a lazy man who doesn't take me out, doesn't contribute to caring for his child, and lacks motivation in life. Content with living at his parents' house, playing video games and drinking, all the while taking advantage of what I do for him. In my mind, considering how new our relationship is, only 7 months, these issues are foreshadowing what lies ahead, and I see no future with him or his child. Once again, thank you to everyone who took the time to read this. I would also like to clarify some things. First, I didn't mean to make it seem like I was testing him like a crazy girlfriend who sets her boyfriend up for failure. I simply used the theory to see how he would react out of curiosity, and I realized that I was giving 90% while he was only giving 30% into the relationship. The theory helped me remove my rose-colored glasses and see how much I was doing without any appreciation. Some people say they would refuse the small task as well, but this doesn't apply to me. If my partner asked me to tie his shoes, I would gladly do it because I see it as a simple way to show love. Previously, I had never asked him to do something that I could do myself since I am relatively independent. However, this wasn't the case for him as he relies on me for almost everything. Babysitting while he goes out, nighttime nanny, chef, cleaner, washing machine, chauffeur, etc. As I read the comments, I reflected a lot and knew I had to talk to him and give him a chance to address this imbalance. I texted him and told him we needed to talk, and he asked me for a ride to my house since his mom was out. I picked him up, but to my surprise, he had his baby with him. So I asked if we could just stay in the driveway and talk. He told me he was hoping we could talk on the way, and when I asked where we were going, he said his buddy wanted to meet up for drinks. I just lost it and told him to get out of my car. I expressed everything I was thinking and feeling. He looked confused at first, but then started blaming me, saying that I waited too long to tell him this and that his daughter is already bonded to me. She is around 1. I'm not sure what to do. I went home and my phone was filled with messages from his mom, saying that I needed to step up and be a good mom and future wife. The thing is, I don't want to be either. Lastly, I know you guys don't like the orange peel theory, but I think I dodged a bullet, and for those who feel bad for him, he dodged a bullet too. Even the smallest things can reveal bigger issues in a relationship. It's important to pay attention to how we treat each other and whether we're putting in equal effort. Communication and mutual respect are key. I never thought dating a guy I assured my ex not to worry about would lead to such a twisted and dramatic turn of events. From innocent encounters to forbidden connections, the line between friendship and romance blurred in a whirlwind of emotions. Now, looking back on the chaos and heartache, I can finally share the truth. Here's how it all went down. So 3 months ago, I went out to a club as it was student night, which means £2.50 drinks. I went out with a big group of girls. While out, I met a guy, I will call him M. I don't remember exactly how or why we started talking, but he was talking to me and my friend. While we were talking, he realized his friend had walked off. So my friend and I told him to stay with us and hang out. We ended up spending the rest of our time there with him, and although he was talking to my friend too, we really clicked well. We were both in relationships though, and we made it clear that this wasn't some casual hookup thing. We even showed each other pictures of our partners. But as the night went on and we got drunker, I admit that our interactions did border on being flirty. Here are some examples. When we were walking through a crowded area, we would hold hands to avoid getting separated. I danced with him a lot. Again, while holding hands, without grinding or anything explicit. I hugged him frequently. And at one point he picked me up during a hug, and I wrapped my legs around him, causing my skirt to roll up. He kindly rolled it back down for me when he put me down. To get rid of a girl who was pestering him, I pretended to be his girlfriend and said, "Could you not flirt with my boyfriend?" I kissed him on the cheek and held on to him. At the end of the night, when I had to leave, we accidentally kissed. By that I mean, we both tried to kiss each other on the cheek at the same time, and our lips touched. It was an accident, and we both apologized for the awkwardness. The following week, we started texting each other regularly. I suggested that we arrange a meeting between our friend group so that we could hang out again. We had good chemistry, so we thought our friends would get along as well. The meeting went great, and now our friend groups have merged, and I have gained new friends. 2 of his friends are now dating 2 of my friends, with one couple even being boyfriend and girlfriend. However, my boyfriend was not happy about M. He didn't like that we were texting, and he disliked the story of how we met. I can understand his perspective, as it may seem suspicious from the outside, even though our intentions were innocent. I introduced the 2 of them, and they seemed to get along well, and were laughing together. However, later that night, my boyfriend started criticizing M for no reason, which led to an argument because he was being fake. About 2 weeks ago, M broke up with his girlfriend. I'm not sure of the exact details. I think they just sort of fizzled out due to being at different stages in life. She wanted kids. He wasn't ready. When my boyfriend found out, he told me he didn't want me to text or be friends with him anymore, as he was now single. I said, I'm not going to cut him off when he's going through a hard time, and that the idea that I now all of a sudden can't be friends with someone just because they are single is ridiculous. My boyfriend wouldn't accept that, and said if I carried on being friends with him, he would break up with me. So I broke up with him then and there, as I was tired of him acting jealous and controlling. On Thursday, I got a text from my friend who is in a relationship with one of M's friends. She said she and my other friend, who's dating one of his friends, were going to London on Friday for a trip and asked if M and I wanted to come. I texted him, and he said his friend had asked him the same question, and we both agreed we'd go. When we got there, things were different than I anticipated, and it definitely felt like a triple date. We did mini golf, and then went to get food and went to a cocktail bar, and at the end of the night, we decided to stay in London as we didn't manage to fit in everything we wanted to do. We all got hotel rooms, and M and I got one too, with 2 beds in the room. However, we ended up sharing a bed and kissing a bit. The next day, we went out to Camden Food Market, and then to Babylon Park, a giant arcade. We decided to stay another night, and this time, M and I had to get a room with 1 bed as there were no double rooms. We went to a club and then back to the room. I ended up performing oral sex on him, but that was it. The next morning, I woke up to like 50 messages from my ex, calling me a liar and a cheat and saying he knew that I was away on a triple date. I told him I was single and could do what I want. He kept accusing me of cheating with M, saying it's weird after a 3-year relationship for me to move on in 2 weeks with a guy we had fought about and who I said wasn't a problem. I told him M wasn't the problem, he was the problem, and that if he hadn't been so jealous, none of this would have happened. He kept accusing me of gaslighting him and just being dramatic, so I blocked him. I told M and the 2 couples we were with, and they said he was just being pathetic, and that everything was above board. But some of our other friends say I'm wrong for moving on so soon and with M. Am I a jerk? So yesterday M and I went for a late meal, around 8 p.m., and had a talk. We agreed that we both really like each other and want to give it a shot, so we have decided to be exclusive while we see where this goes. He stayed at my place last night, and we did have sex. It was amazing. I am seriously happy and excited for the future. Afterwards, we spontaneously booked a holiday to Cyprus, just the 2 of us, and we leave on Monday. He is half Greek Cypriot, half Jamaican, and has a villa out there, so we just needed flights. As for my 2 friends who thought I should have waited, I drafted a text with help from a user in direct messages and sent it to them both in a group chat. It says, "Hi girls, I know you have been disappointed in my actions and feel it was a bad look to move on so quickly. I know you care deeply about me and just want what's best for me and for me to make good decisions for myself. I do feel like I want to clear up what happened a little bit and explain my thought process. What you need to understand is, in the moment of the ultimatum, I saw 2 paths ahead of me. One where I spend the rest of my 20s in Jay's bedroom, watching him smoke weed and play Xbox, begging him to go on a date, and only getting attention when he wants sex. Then I saw one where I stayed friends with M, and we all got to hang out as a big group, go to events, play golf, go on our holidays, etc. I knew then and there that the relationship was done. I didn't just choose M over J. I chose this life, where we all get to hang out together and actually live and have fun, versus just me and Jay sitting in and doing nothing all the time. It wasn't just a choice between M and J. It was a choice of all of you and the life we've built these last few months versus J. As for how quickly I moved on, you both know I had been unhappy for a long time, and there was only so long that I could beg for him to change before giving up. To you, it might seem like I lost my feelings for him overnight, but truthfully, this has been building since the start of this year. I have begged, pleaded, and cried for him to change, and unfortunately, he never did. All he ever wanted to do is smoke weed, and that was it. By the time he threatened to end it, I had already mourned the relationship 100 times. He had already spent all my tears. He had already drained me emotionally, and I had no more emotions left to give him. Breaking up with him wasn't heartbreaking, it was liberating. That is why I did not feel the need to wait. I love you both so much, and I hope you can be happy for me. But if not, that is your decision. My friends replied and said they know that I was unhappy, and that they think I made the right decision, and that they're happy for me. They said sorry for coming across as judgmental, that it wasn't their intention and they were just worried I was making a rash decision. We are all meeting tonight, just us girls, and we're going out for a meal and some drinks and put all this behind us for good. Then I'll be going to M's for the first time, to meet his parents, which I'm excited about. My ex is staying blocked, and I doubt I'll ever see or hear from him again as he never leaves his room. So that is the end of that, and I'm closing that miserable chapter of my life for good. Well, who would have thought that a simple night out with friends would lead to such a whirlwind of events? Life really does have a funny way of throwing unexpected twists and turns our way. But you know what? I'm embracing it all with open arms. I never expected my seemingly perfect marriage to unravel in such a twisted and disturbing way. It all started innocently enough with my husband praising our boss's daughter. But as the praise turned into obsession, I discovered a dark secret hidden on his laptop. A collection of photos that revealed his disturbing infatuation. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a chilling journey that would change everything. Here's how it all went down. For some context first, I, 29, and my husband, 34, work for a small ready-made garments, RMG firm here. We were both recommended through a relative of mine. I have been working here for about 6 years, my husband for about 7 years. During the work time, our boss would occasionally bring his then teenage daughter to work. She should have been around 15-ish when we first met her, and had her interact with the employees and stuff to show her what we were doing, how things work, etc. Fast forward to January of this year, the boss brought her in, officially, letting us know that she will be taking over a good deal of his work overlooking things. We were initially hesitant considering she was so young, turned 20 this year, but ultimately, she wasn't taking over. More so learning to handle the business while the boss managed other work, I suppose. It helped that she herself was also very keen on cooperating and taking advice, often holding meetings to discuss things and making sure she herself is the last to leave work almost every time. It's been an overall good development in that regard. The issue started a few months after she began working. She would occasionally hold office events to lighten the mood, which earned her praise from all of us. This was something the old boss didn't have time for, so it was refreshing. We all talked about her, so it didn't seem strange when my husband joined in with the praise. He would comment on how impressive it was that she was young but mature, how she brought a breath of fresh air to the office, and how everyone was motivated to work because of her. Looking back, it seems like he was using this as an opportunity to talk about her in general. Every now and then, he would sing her praises at home, emphasizing how mature and understanding she was, even comparing our own behavior at that age. I didn't take it much to heart until one time I joked that it was fine if he was immature at times, and that I would love him regardless. And his response was something along the lines of, "Well, you were too, unlike her." I think that was the first time I felt a bit bad because it felt like he actually was just comparing me to her now. But I tried not to think too much about it. This slowly spiraled too, going from talking about her maturity to looks, how she can still look good while being so busy with studies and work, how she, and I quote, was definitely more gifted compared to other girls. And once, out of insecurity, I asked if he thought she was prettier than me. He gave me "Of course you're attractive to me, but objectively, like, not considering my attraction to you, she is prettier." This messed with me for a while, and we ended up having a fight where I essentially banned him from bringing her up with me if it's not work-related. Also adding to it was the fact that he started taking extra work every now and then and working overtime. And while I initially thought it was to just earn extra money, I later found out it was simply because he knew she usually heads home late too, usually after most if not all office employees left. Fast forward to a few days ago, during the weekend. My husband was out with his friends and my laptop was being repaired, so I used his laptop without his permission. We have a relatively open policy with each other's devices, meaning we rarely have a reason to use them, but wouldn't mind if the need arose. I didn't think much of it at the time. While I was doing some work and had some videos playing in the background, I opened his PC folder and noticed a folder with our boss's daughter's name in the quick access bar on the left. Curiosity got the better of me, and I clicked on it, only to be shocked by what I saw. Inside was a folder containing over 1,000 pictures of her, including screenshots from Instagram and other apps. It seemed like he had collected every picture he could find of her without her consent. These pictures appeared to have been taken either with a hidden camera or with his phone at the office. They ranged from innocent shots of her sitting or working to more invasive ones, taken from high angles to capture cleavage or down-blouse shots. There were even a few pictures taken from under the table, although they didn't reveal anything explicit, from what I could tell. This creeped me out, beyond anything, since it was almost impossible to place my husband, who I have always known as the sweetest guy, for the 6 years we have been married, as someone who would do something like this. I was shocked and just didn't really know how to react, if I should feel disgusted or sad, angry. I didn't know, but then it got worse. I used search to look up her name on his laptop and found something that basically turned any form of sorrow or sadness I would have felt into just pure disgust. He basically had a folder poorly hidden deep in a number of folders, just full of photoshopped pics of her, some solo, some with him, some with other members of the office, and some just absolutely vile and disgusting. I deleted all traces of me having seen or searched for those, though I doubt it was necessary, since my husband isn't the most tech-savvy to begin with. Took a pic of some of the crap I found and left the laptop. I was furious, but I also didn't want him to know yet, so I acted normal that night. And then the next day I called up my cousin. She was pregnant and her husband was away, and asked if she needed help and used that as an excuse to move in and help her for a bit. I have talked to my husband, though limited, mostly through texts and occasionally at work. But for the last 4 days I have been living with my cousin. Honestly, I am disgusted, but I also don't know what to do exactly. Like I feel a mixture of being cheated on, which I know he didn't do anything with her, but still I can't explain it. But on top of that, I feel disgusted that my husband was this sort of a man. But even talking about it to my friends or family feels weird. I tried to share with my cousin, but the embarrassment didn't allow me to say anything. I just don't know what to do right now. I can't stay here forever. I'll have to head back sooner rather than later. But I also don't think I can just go back home and pretend that none of this happened or I didn't see any of this. So thought this was the best way to stay anonymous and ask for some form of advice. What should I do and how should I progress? So a lot happened in the course of the few hours. I honestly wanted to wait a few more days to cool off myself and then do whatever was needed, but some of the comments did have me worried if he got an idea and deleted everything, if he did something harmful in the meantime, and as my friend pointed out, if he somehow, as unlikely as it might be, found the post and put 2 and 2 together. We ended up going over around 4 p.m.-ish, knowing we'd gave a few hours to collect whatever. I made sure to copy everything on the 2 folders to a flash drive, and took a video of it being from his laptop too, in case that was something needed. Then, as another comment suggested, we looked for my name, which came out with nothing but regular pics and stuff. After that, my friend asked me to look up co-workers' names, and when I did, that hit some results with 4 other co-workers' names, all women, but none to same extent as the boss's daughter. Like, between the downloaded pics, creep shots, and edited pics, all 4 of them combined didn't match hers. All the folders were hidden the same way, inside a few layers of new folders, like one folder inside another, etc., up to like 8, 9 new folders. We took those too. Then my friend pointed out that some of those might be files he received, since the file names were different and some were similar to WhatsApp files as she pointed out. This is something I hadn't noticed, but the edited files were definitely named differently, some being daughter's name plus porn action, and then others just being something like IMG number and then WA0014 or something along that line, which my friend said are pics he received in WhatsApp. We confirmed that they were indeed received from WhatsApp in the pic information. This ultimately made me do something that I shouldn't have done, since it could have blown up in my face. But it had made me anxious, and I needed answers. So I asked my friends if they would stay till my husband gets back. They agreed, and I decided to take that time to pack my bags, just necessary things for now. My friends did say he's logged into Facebook but didn't want to check his Facebook without me, and by the time they told me that, it was already time for him to come back, so we decided to not do anything. We waited and waited until he finally came back. He was surprised to see us, but didn't seem to suspect anything, and I told him to sit down. He did, and I think that's when he noticed his laptop on the couch and asked what was going on. I told him I saw some things related to the boss's daughter and that I wanted an explanation. He tried to get angry at first, but quickly dropped that act. I told him I wanted to hear what he had to say and then decide what to do. He said he was fine talking, but only if my friends waited in the dining or another room, as he wanted to explain things to me alone. My friends were hesitant, but I told them it's fine, and that if they hear any issues, to send the drive link to the boss. This was a bluff that I wish I had thought about before he came, but I told him that I saved everything on a G drive and wouldn't hesitate sending it to the boss if he tried anything. He assured me he wouldn't act up and asked me what I wanted to know. At that point, I really wanted to hit him, just the look on his face. He looked guilty, like he was looking for excuses, but failing or something, I don't know. but I really hated it. But I stayed calm and told him I say a lot of things, including all the pics of her, the edits, and a few other things. I asked him to explain. He kept asking me exactly what I wanted to know, and it was becoming obvious that he was either stalling for an excuse or trying to see how much I knew. I told him finally that I saw the pics, the hidden cam pics, and even the edits. He pleaded with me to not get mad and hear him out, and I told him I'll consider it. He took a minute and told me that he had noticed he was growing more and more attracted to her sexually, and he apparently struggled with these emotions a lot, which is why he did that, and that he wanted to release his tension without harming anyone, which is why he made those and kept it to himself. I then asked to see his WhatsApp, and the color on his face almost drained. He told me I knew he didn't use WhatsApp, but I told him I had checked his Google Play to see what apps he had installed. Another lie, but I was sure he was using WhatsApp, so I still went with it. After a bit, he handed me the phone and told me to not overreact. I took his phone and searched around for a bit. He has a lot of pointless apps downloaded, and it was hard to spot, especially since it wasn't even on the home screen, but on a folder file inside the slide screen thingy Android has, on the third page. Sorry if the explanation confuses you. I open it to find just one group chat with 3 other colleagues, members of the team he is in basically, and it was just filled with pics of this girl, creep shots taken from different areas, zoomed in for the most part, from today. Like, literally a few minutes before he handed me the phone. A lot of conversations in Bangla about fantasies on how they would have fucked her. Scrolling up, it keeps getting worse and worse. I won't go into details on the specifics, but a lot of it was about wanting to force themselves on her, as a revenge on the boss kind of thing, but with her acting as the boss, and some were even full-on well-thought-out scenarios, where they are playing out what they do and what not. If you ever read something and just faced pure whiplash, that was me at that moment, literally unable to process it properly. He kept apologizing, telling me he loved me, and that this was all just to keep himself in control and that it was ultimately just harmless fantasizing. I only caught bits and pieces of what he was saying, before just turning on the screen recorder and scrolling, recording the conversations, and the more I scrolled up, the more vile it got. The conversation did predate my husband joining, it seemed, but that didn't really matter. He was very actively taking part in it. I got a good chunk of it, but it didn't seem to end, so I simply went to the chat media, and even that was a huge scrolling down of pics, creep shots from phones, fakes, etc. I ended up getting as much as I could and sending it over to me, making sure it's saved on my phone. All the while he kept begging me to forgive him and not ruin his life and career. Sorry, and I quote, our life and careers. I told him I felt betrayed, and I told him I was disgusted at the man he was, and through his apologizing, he kept insisting it didn't really hurt anyone, but I told him it hurt me, and if she found out, it would hurt her too, and he simply pleaded with me not to tell her. For a while we just cried. For different reasons I presume, but the entire time, he kept switching between how he's sorry and he loves me, to how it's not as bad as I am making it out to be, and how they were just messing around online and weren't hurting anyone. My friends checked in on me a few times, but didn't interfere. After a while, I pulled myself up and told him that I don't see myself staying with him and that I want a divorce. He pleaded with me not to do so, but I simply said that I didn't want to listen to his excuses. I then told him that I wanted to take the laptop, and he froze. I was half expecting him to reject me, but he simply begged me not to show this to the boss or the daughter. I told him I wasn't sure if I wanted to do that, which was a lie, and that I am thinking it over. I told him not to delete the WhatsApp conversations or tell the others, and that if he does, I will send everything to the boss. Ultimately, I want to talk to the daughter first, and then decide what to do and how to tell the father. But that will have to wait, I guess. There were a bit more pleading, and I simply left it on. I don't know what I want to do. I need to think it over and will let him know, and told him to not contact me in the meantime. And that was all we said as we left, with his laptop. I do hope he doesn't alert his friends, but even if he did, it wouldn't matter, since the screen recording has their names and numbers on the group chat and a huge chunk of the stuff they said. The thing is, since nothing physical happened, I know the police won't take it seriously 90% of the times, with the only possible time they might take it seriously is if the girl herself took action. So I intend to give her all of what I have and let her proceed with whatever actions she chooses to take there. I do wish I had waited to talk to lawyers before taking things this far, but the fear and emotions had me wrapped up, and I just ended up taking action. It seems to have worked out, but I don't know. Husband seemed pretty defeated today, but considering how little it feels like I know him, I honestly can't tell with him anymore. I will see how things play out and maybe do one final update, but from my understanding, things will probably just end with a divorce and him getting fired. Still, thank you all for the help, even just snapping me into action. When we were leaving, he was basically sobbing and begging for forgiveness, or claiming how it's all just a mistake and nothing actually happened, to the point where I almost did feel bad for me, almost. But I don't think I can feel sympathy after those chats and whatnot. My friend luckily was also there to remind me that regardless of what he says, his actions are not for me to forgive. Right now, I don't really know what to feel. My mind's a bit of a mess, and things are processing weirdly. Apologies in advance if some of this is incoherent or feels like there are blanks in between stuff. Trust me, there are blanks in my head too right now. A few things I want to clarify. Regarding the post, some people misunderstood the phrase, "he's not tech savvy," to mean that he is completely inept with technology, which is not the case. When I say tech savvy, I mean being highly proficient with technology. I simply meant that he is not exceptionally skilled, but he is still competent. We work in RMG offices where we frequently use Modaris, Photoshop, and Illustrator, and he is proficient with them. I was trying to convey that he is not the type to hide folders or set up passcode walls, if you understand what I mean. Secondly, when I mentioned hidden cam, I was referring more to the style of photography rather than actual hidden cameras. Most of the photos were taken with phones, and we have discovered that multiple people were involved. Thirdly, some people thought she was a minor, but she is actually 20 years old as of this year. However, that doesn't change the fact that he knew her when she was a minor, and that their relationship started when she was 19. Fourthly, I've been contemplating who I should inform about this situation, and although she is still young, she is strong and, despite my reluctance to admit it after hearing it from my husband for so long, she is mature for her age. Since she is directly involved, I believe it is only fair to inform her and let her decide who she wants to share this information with. I have tried reaching out to her outside of work, and I will let her decide how she wants to handle everything from her perspective. Fifth, am I worried about my job as well? To some extent, yes, for a few reasons. Firstly, both my husband and I were recommended for our positions by a relative, and now all of a sudden, it seems like we were recommended by someone who was creeping on the boss's daughter. Secondly, I will technically be known as the ex-wife of the person who stalked her, to her and the boss, so that is something to be concerned about. Nevertheless, I still believe it is the right decision to make. Lastly, regarding the divorce, I am definitely worried, but we don't have a significant joint fortune, and most of our finances are separate. We have a small fund saved up that we usually use for trips and other expenses. Personally, I believe I have enough evidence to support my case. However, I will seek legal advice in the next few days, preferably before the situation becomes more complicated. Currently, I am staying with a friend while I search for a new apartment. I had considered moving in with my parents temporarily, but my intuition tells me that it would not be the best place to go once the news breaks. So, this will likely be my only update. I noticed some people were asking for updates before, but I needed some time for myself and wanted to see how things played out before providing an update. As I mentioned in my previous edit and some of the comments, I ended up reaching out to the boss's daughter. I showed her all the evidence I had and informed her that I also had the laptop if she needed it. It was clear that she needed some time to process everything initially, but she mentioned that she's unfortunately accustomed to situations like this, which is truly disheartening, and she composed herself. She asked if I would be willing to help her go through the screenshots, screen recordings, and pictures, since she preferred not to have to review them herself, and I agreed. We met at a local restaurant and compiled a detailed report resembling an HR report about the team. I went over the various aspects of the text messages captured in the screen recordings, the edited pictures, and the intrusive photographs of her. She assured me that I would not face any consequences for this, and that she would handle the conversation with her father. She asked if I would be willing to go to the police station if called, and I agreed. She concluded that while in other circumstances this evidence could have been used to bring about more severe consequences, it is likely that it will only result in a few days of jail time. Nevertheless, she still plans to report this to the police as a way to ensure that if they ever consider doing something, this evidence could be used against them. As for their jobs, she said she would keep them for a few days while the filing and reports work its way up, then fire them on the spot with no reference or experience certificate, basically rendering any attempts of showing work experience in this company impossible. Should they try, future hirers will be sent the HR report we built. We concluded the meeting there, with her telling me to not worry and just not interact with them at work. After that, I spoke to a lawyer, showed him everything I had, and while he took a small bit, said that things can be done relatively easily. The thing is, it's not like me or my husband have that much joint property or wealth, so there wouldn't be much of a messy breakup financially. But from the looks of things, so far at least, things seem to be going in my favor. My husband did call a few times and texted to see if I would reconsider, but I blocked him more or less. I didn't want any part of his nonsense, honestly. This is the part where the storm I had mentioned started, calls and messages from relatives, all with the purpose of letting me know that these things happen and that I shouldn't hold it against him. I talked to my mother and found out that what he told her and a few other relatives, including his parents, was that I got jealous because he accidentally showed interest in the boss's daughter but never planned to act on it. This caused almost everyone but his mother to side with him, while his mother called me to apologize, saying she was ashamed of what her son had said. I had originally told my husband I wouldn't blow this out of proportion, but ended up telling my mother and his parents. The former, who responded exactly as I thought she would. She told me it's not like he acted on it and that this is nothing to ruin a marriage over. This didn't surprise me, since when one of my aunts got cheated on, she and her other sister essentially took the stance of, just forgive it and ignore it, move on and don't bring it up. Things will be happy. My mother and I had a huge back and forth where she brought up family reputation, embarrassment if family finds out what he did, embarrassment if I am a divorcee in my 30s. Yeah, that's a thing here sadly. And yeah, 29 is still reaching 30s. We ended the call on pretty bad terms, but it was expected. The family itself is more or less on the same stance, with only some choosing to stay away. And even now, when I ended up sharing the exact reason with a few members, they responded, let it go and fix the relationship, or something similar. The pleasant surprise came from telling his parents, though, who took my side. After things blew up, his mother apologized to me, telling me she was ashamed of what her son did, while the father told me he will make sure my husband won't be causing any issues for me in the divorce or in general. I was honestly expecting them to take his side like my family, so this was a welcome surprise. Yesterday, the team was called into the boss's office along with some police. I don't know what was said and done, but they were in there for a long time, and by the time they all left, they just looked defeated, especially my husband. It seems she did exactly what she said she'd do and fired them. I don't know the specifics of it, and I don't necessarily intend to ask either. As for me personally, it's been rough. It's easy to get angry when everything is happening, but it's the moments when things are calm that memories and feelings get the best of me. But I will be fine. I get to keep my job, which is huge in my opinion. The whole thing with the family isn't getting much better, it seems, and it got a bit worse after the firing. I have my stuff and I have moved in with a friend for a few days while I look for a smaller apartment. As for my husband, I don't exactly know, but I assume he'll be moving in with his parents, who are pretty annoyed with him. The apartment we stayed in was something we both contributed to, so without income, I can't see him maintaining it at all. Well, that was quite a roller coaster of a story. Definitely not a situation anyone would want to find themselves in. It just goes to show that trust can be shattered in the most unexpected ways. Take care of yourselves and your relationships, folks. They're precious and fragile. If you enjoyed today's stories, check out the other videos on your screen now. Submit your own stories at you'rethejerk.com. Subscribe now, or you're definitely the jerk.